Hi, Scott Orlin of Cinema-Magazine. A new film is coming your way. It is called The Kid Detective, and I'm here with not only the star of the movie, the executive producer as well, Adam Brody. Adam, I'm going to probably date myself, but I remember as a kid there was this great book series of books I'd read called Encyclopedia Brown, which was all about this kid detective, and it's kind of like I never saw anything similar to that again. Does this have its DNA, the kid detective, in that, or is this something?
No, it 100% it has its DNA in that. Funny enough, neither myself nor Evan Morgan, the writer director, grew up reading those, but he had this idea of just a grown up Encyclopedia Brown or Hardy Boys or what have you. And so he subsequently went and read like a ton of Encyclopedia Brown just to kind of inform the scripts. I didn't, but it's because there's enough of that type of young detective. Like, I think we all intuitively understand the archetype. And, in terms of my youth, no, I think as far as I went with detectives was Scooby-Doo.
But let's just talk about the genre in particular.
Yeah.
What attracts us as an audience to that quote mystery component of somebody trying to solve a crime?
Well, I think people like a puzzle and there's a shadowy question. There's menace lurking, which is scary but interesting. And then it also, there's always an end, these movies and stories in general, they build towards an ending, which not every story does. I mean, every story goes to an ending, but these really have a true climax. Any sort of detective movie does. So you're building towards a grand finale always, I think. And then with, again, hints of menace, violence, other titillating stuff. And then it's also, in terms of movies or anything, it's just a great way to meet a whole cast of characters and have sometimes confrontational, sometimes not, scenes with a whole host of characters that you wouldn't ordinarily, or that character wouldn't ordinarily cross paths with.
I'm fascinated too because we all think we have different skill sets, but the one main component here is being analytical, deductions, following leads. And I was wondering, in your own set of skills, how good are you at those?
I'm not sure. I don't think of myself as any sort of, I've never remotely thought of myself as a detective exactly, and I certainly couldn't come up with an example of a mystery I solved or analytical in that way, although I do find myself, I should probably do some therapy, but I never really have, but I still find myself analyzing, analyzing behavior and a lot, not in a detective way, just in again, a Freudian way, I think.
One of the interesting components too of watching this movie is the burden we place on a gifted child. That
Mm-hmm.
when they kind of have something out of the ordinary, the accolades and the celebration that kind of follows. But as that kid grows older, what our perception of that person is. And in some strange way, you were a gifted child. You started young, acting. The burden of growing older, how did people view you? Were you allowed to evolve naturally?
I can relate to it a little. I didn't really have any success acting until my early 20s. And that's more or less when I started. I started a few years before that. But so, I mean, I was an adult. So I think it was healthier than, say, you reaching a peak at 12. I mean, I think of acting and I think of fame, I guess. Celebrity. I don't know if it's the same in sports. Probably not. I don't think. But maybe it is. But I certainly think of in acting anyways, which is an analogy that's easy enough to, you brought it up and it's easy enough to relate to the movie. I would think of like having success or fame as an actor at 12 as something only having no benefit. And the only thing it could do is be something to overcome. You might be fine. You might have got, you might be fine, have some benefit. You meet interesting people and be very worldly, very precocious child, whatever. But I think that is more of a burden than anything. Like I said, with me having success later than that, I don't think it was messed with my head in the same way it could have. That said, I had to certainly I had to swallow the pill of, hey, I'm in my early 30s and I had more opportunity in my early 20s or my mid 20s. And that's something, but I also think that's incredibly universal for everyone. I mean, growing older is very humbling, whoever you are, even if you're Tom Brady, and so I think it's also very universal, is waking up as an adult and going and taking stock of your life. And invariably, you probably, it's probably not exactly what you thought.
How interesting was it for you? I mean, obviously, creatively as an actor, you get to, exercise a certain muscle, but being an executive producer of helping shepherd this project.
Such a thrill. Such a thrill. I mean, I could have creative conversations all day just as much as I want to get up and perform. That's fun, but that's tiring in its own way, being a performer. And I've been dying to have some more influence, because it's such a thrill, helping influence the music and score, helping influence costumes, helping cast. I mean, there's a million creative choices that go into a movie or a show that don't have anything to do with, just at the end of the day, the actual choice you make in a scene as an actor. And so to get to soup to nuts, be part of all that in a very influential way was a constant thrill. It's also given me something to do during this quarantine. I mean, we were in post-production for all of it, dealing with edits and music. And so it kept me a little busy too, which was nice.
And a last question for you is, obviously Abe is a character that we follow from his adolescence to his adulthood. But if we were to take Adam back to 12 years old, what kind of person would we have seen then? I mean, how entrepreneurial were you? Were you athletic? Were you popular in school? Who were you at that age that Abe was, that we first meet him?
Yeah, I think I'm probably not unique in this. I had 12. Yeah, I think 12 was when I was starting to awaken into the adult world and getting some cuts and bruises from it a little bit. I think I had a very sheltered life before then. And I think at 12 was the first kind of year that I started to get into some more trouble and witness some things, not witness some darker things. And wasn't as protected from, I was venturing out farther away from home and dealing with the adult world more. I wasn't entrepreneurial at all. I was a little bit of a thief for a minute. Yeah, I don't know. It was okay. But weirdly, junior high, I don't know, high school, I didn't love junior high or high school. Those were the most difficult years of my life. But I also think that that's probably the same for a lot of people.
Well, you turned out okay, so that's the important thing.
Says you.
Says me. Well, Adam, thank you so much. The movie is called The Kid Detective, and I hope it sees an afterlife. I think this would be a great series.
Oh, yeah, it would. Listen, we had such a long road getting it made. For the last year there, I was telling Evan, the writer, like, please just cut it up. Let's sell it as a series, because we're never going to get this movie made. But he kept the faith, and here we are. So,
well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Adam, so much. This is Scott Orlin. Until next time.
Thanks a lot. See ya.
Appreciate it. Take care.